So the Switch 2 is here. I've put in a good amount of hours on this device. I've played a bunch of games on it, and I've put it through its paces as to what I think this thing is going to be for the next number of years, the next 5 to 10 years, however long they want to support the Nintendo Switch 2. I have some thoughts on it. I think it is overall a good console, but I don't know if I can fully recommend it for people to go out and buy it right now. So let's get into this. I'm going to start off talking about the design and the build quality and the ergonomics of the Nintendo Switch 2. So here it is. It is a bigger version basically of the Nintendo Switch 1 in every single form. If you go watch my unboxing, which I will have linked, you will see the comparison that I did between the OLED and the original Nintendo Switch. And it is a significant difference. Maybe right now you look at this and you may think, okay, it doesn't look that much bigger, but it is specifically on the screen. The screen is 7.9 inches. And that is one of my favorite things right off of the bat with the design of the Switch 2 is the size of this screen. Playing it on the 7.9 inch screen really makes me never want to go back and use the old Nintendo Switch or even other handhelds that have smaller screens, as I like this. To me, when it comes to the portable factor of consoles of the Switch, it's not as much of a deal for me when the screen is bigger. I'll have a case, I'll fit it into my bag, I'll be completely fine with that. So I like bigger screens. So I'm happy they went with this. The screen itself is probably one of the biggest things that people want to know about and whether this screen is good or not. And it is an LCD screen. It is not an OLED, but I will say it is a great screen here that they were able to output here with LCD. If you compare it directly to the Nintendo Switch 1 OLED, it is not as good, but it is definitely very, very comparable. Things like deep blacks and stuff, you're just not going to get that same depth with this LCD screen, but I really don't have too many complaints. My biggest complaint I would say about this LCD screen is that we know they're going to be releasing an OLED in a few years, and a lot of people like myself will probably double down on that and pick up the OLED selling off this one. So that is my wish. I wish they would have just put an OLED right away off of the bat, but that's Nintendo. We know what they're going to do. There will be an OLED Nintendo Switch 2 at some point so that you get that vibrant screen as well. And I wonder if they will make it the same size screen or bigger, but that is a discussion for a different time. The feel of the console itself, it feels premium. That was a big difference from taking out the Nintendo Switch 1 on launch versus taking out this one. You instantly feel like you are getting a premium handheld device. And just from the way that it looks, I think it looks very sleek. You also have a matte finish here on the plastic that gives it a nice feel in your hands, a better feel than the Nintendo Switch 1. The way that the Joy-Cons come on and off here with the little button in the back that is magnetized to the side of the console, and it just clicks in so nicely. It is extremely satisfying. I found myself when I first picked this up over the first few days, just taking this on and off multiple times because it was just so satisfying to do. I love this system. Some people are worried that the little pin inside will break. I don't think that's really going to be an issue unless you have a kid or somebody deliberately going in there and trying to bend that pin. I don't think these things will really bend by just snapping the Joy-Cons on and off. So that is a huge, nice upgrade. Simply that little feature there is great. The controls are basically all the same other than having the voice chat button here. One thing that I will say is these are fine. The face buttons are fine. It's all feeling the same. I still do not like Nintendo Switch joysticks. I wish they would have gone with something different. These are like essentially the same height, the same feel. I just don't find them accurate. And that is my biggest problem here with these controllers. I just do not find these joysticks very good or very accurate. Yes, you can do solutions like putting something on top or even get different Joy-Cons that you put on there that have better sticks. I just wish Nintendo would have gone with something different. They didn't, but they do the job as best as they can. The top here, in terms of the ergonomics, in terms of how it feels in my hand, never been a fan of the way that the Switch feels in handheld. This one is essentially the same, but it is definitely better because these Joy-Cons are bigger than the Nintendo Switch 1, and I will never want to go back to the smaller Joy-Cons. I like these. I do have bigger hands, so for me it is more of an issue than some people out there when holding this in handheld. But I've been playing this console mostly in handheld and then a bit in docked as well. I've been playing in bed, been playing sitting down at my desk. I've just been trying it in different areas, and I will say I can get some good gaming sessions on here and be fine. There's no real issues with my hands cramping up or anything. My hands fall asleep less with this one. I haven't really had too many, maybe once, but that's maybe because the way I was sitting in my bed. With the Switch One, literally within 20 minutes of playing the Switch One and handled, my hands would just cramp up and fall asleep. And that's just simply because it's so flat. It's really, they've made it to give you that thin profile, and that's why everything here is flat. And I just, for me, for my hand size, I've just never been a fan of the ergonomics, but it is fine, and it feels, you can play in handheld mode. I just will more than likely be upgrading and getting more controller like Joy Cons on the side of this at some point. The one thing that I really am having an issue with while with these ergonomics is the R and the L. Not because they don't feel good, but because I find they come down very far onto the sides. Like, for example, if I'm playing Cyberpunk and I'm holding it like this and I'm going to press a button, I find the fat part of my finger here, maybe because I have, like I said, bigger, chubbier hands, I find that I accidentally hit the very edge here of R, and it clicks, it works, it makes the button function. So I found myself in games like Cyberpunk simply throwing grenades when I did not mean to do that. So that part has been kind of annoying. So for the overall design, build quality, ergonomics, it is good, not great. They didn't really improve too much upon it, but of course the Joy-Con size themselves do make a difference. I feel like for this will differ depending on the size of hands that you have. This will be different for everybody. If you have smaller hands, this will be far better. But if you have bigger hands, you will feel a little bit of like reach when you're trying to go down and hit these buttons, a little bit of cramping at times if you're playing very long sessions, and you may end up hitting these buttons with your fingers accidentally, which is kind of an annoying thing. So those are my drawbacks overall when it comes to the ergonomics. Performance is the next thing that I do want to talk about, and this is where you get the big upgrade with the Nintendo Switch 2. I've been very impressed with the performance of this thing. Games like Mario Kart, but more importantly, games that are bigger AAA style games that we will be seeing on the Xbox and the PlayStation, those running on the Nintendo Switch 2, like the Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, been very, very impressed. This will, a lot of this will come down to the developer and how they optimize and all of that. But if Cyberpunk 2077 is any indication of the future of what we're going to be able to get on the Switch 2, I think should be a lot of optimism about what this platform can bring, because it also has that added function of portability that you're not getting right out of the box with Xbox or with PlayStation. That's where the big advantage comes in here with the Nintendo Switch 2. Cyberpunk 2077 in handheld mode runs and feels great. I've been really enjoying it. Yes, you're not getting 60 frames per second. You're getting targeted 40 frames per second in the performance mode, but it feels good. And especially playing on a size of screen like this, in terms of the resolutions, you're going to have a good experience playing this game here on the Nintendo Switch 2. In docked mode, this game also runs well and looks very good in the quality mode. The shadows and the reflections and the overall pixels and everything that you will see within this game looks good, and I have been very, very impressed. So in terms of the overall performance, we don't know exactly where this lines up. We've seen conflicting reports that this is kind of closer to a Series S or kind of closer to a PlayStation 4. I don't think really where it lines up against the other consoles is really matters, to be completely honest. What's important here is developers optimizing for this, using the NVIDIA DLSS and the SoC on this platform, using NVIDIA's chip on here, and being able to use a lot of those features that get games to run better. Very nicely shown off here with Cyberpunk 2077. So if you're looking for a showcase of kind of the type of games that this can play and how this is a big jump from the Nintendo Switch 1, I would say Cyberpunk 2077 is one of those games, because I've been blown away by just how playable it was. I thought this was going to be a very, very watered down version of the game, and it really isn't. It's great. It's actually very nice for what you're getting, and being able to take this game, the full version of this game on the go is extremely cool. So that has been a nice surprise here. The other thing that is great is backwards compatibility. Games like Pokemon now are running at 60 frames per second. So you're getting some upgrades, or games that do have upgrades run significantly better here on the Switch 2 than they do on the Switch 1. My biggest complaint right now is Nintendo not expanding this out to more of their games. Like I've tried Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade 2 and everything. You don't really get a big difference there. It can push it and make it run better just from the raw hardware, but they didn't do anything else to unlock frame rates or anything like that. And I think that they absolutely should be doing that, because you could easily get those games looking and feeling and running much better on this console than you had on the Nintendo Switch 1. So backwards compatibility, if Nintendo continues to work on it, I think will be a very good thing and continue to allow you to play all of your games in much better ways. As of right now, as you can see, like some of these games, they have the raw power of the console pushes it forward, but you don't really have a big advantage. So hopefully they go in there and unlock user experience, user interface. It is the same as the Nintendo Switch 1. There's no difference. And right now, if you go and update your Nintendo Switch 1, you're literally getting the additional things here, like the virtual game cards. So if you like the Switch 1 UI, you will like the Switch 2 UI. I would say the biggest thing here that the Switch 2 does improve upon is the speed. You can actually go into your eShop now and you can actually shop for games, whereas with the Switch 1 you literally couldn't at times because it was just so slow to navigate through. But here is the eShop. You can just see how fast it is and how easy it is to get through, which is nice. And that benefits Nintendo, because if the eShop isn't working well, people aren't going to buy games. So the power of this console gives you an overall faster, better experience here than you had on the Nintendo Switch 1. The game cart sharing works well. I will say that. It's easy. It's fast. If I get to it here, and you just can load it between all of your Nintendo Switches. Like, for example, if I wanted to load this onto the console, you click load and boom, you have it right there loaded into your Nintendo Switch 2, and it shows up at downloads, and everything to get it to be accessible is going to be ready here for the Nintendo Switch 2. So user interface is the same. If you liked it on the Switch 1, you're going to like it on the Switch 2. I'm fine with this. I know people always want like a brand new user interface and a whole new experience when a new console comes out, but I don't really care that much about that whatsoever, because this is just the avenue to get you into your games. And I'd rather a refined user interface when a console launches with less bugs and glitches than a new one that needs to be updated throughout the entirety of the life cycle of the console. So I'm actually completely okay with this user interface, and I think it is good. It works well. In my experience, portable versus docked. Now, this is where I find it interesting from other perspectives that I have seen. On the Nintendo Switch 1, I played that thing mostly in dock mode. So far with the Switch 2, and I can see this going into the future, and it probably has a lot to do with the size of the screen, is I've played this majorly in handheld mode, and I've been loving it. And I put it into dock mode, and it looks great in dock mode. You're getting upscaled 4K. If you have a big 4K TV, the games are going to look good. That also will depend on the game, but like Mario Kart, Cyberpunk looks great. Super Mario RPG looks great. You have games like Fast Fusion, which look really great. So there are some games that look phenomenal in dock mode, but they also look good in handheld mode. But for me, because the performance has improved on the dock mode, and also because the screen is bigger, I'm going to be playing this mostly in there. The biggest issue I have found so far, which you've seen a lot of reports on it, and I'm experiencing this as well, is this little feature here, which is Nintendo needs to fix this. They need to fix this ASAP. If you go down to display, I don't know if you guys can see that there. If you go down to display, and there is a toggle here for 120 hertz output. I have that on currently right now. So there it is. And some games, if you keep this on and you put it into the dock mode, your TV screen will just give you invalid format or will not work. This is an issue with Cyberpunk. So in order to get this to work, you have to turn off the 120 hertz output to get it to work on your display if you do want the 4K as well. You can keep it on and put it in 1080p, but if you're trying to do 4K 120 hertz output, it does not work for certain games, and that is extremely frustrating. There was no issues with Mario Kart, but with a game like Cyberpunk, there was an issue. This absolutely needs to be worked out ASAP, because a lot of people are going to be putting this into their dock with those features automatically on, and they're going to be super confused why it isn't working. So that is something that is an issue right now with the software, with the console, and with the dock itself. That's been basically the only drawback from my perspective in the portability versus the docked experience. The controller, I don't have a pro controller. I've actually been using the 8BitDo Ultimate 2, which works well in this. So there is compatibility across different third-party controllers. It has native mouse and keyboard support. You plug those in. You can actually use mouse and keyboard to play a game like Cyberpunk, which is very cool. So I was very happy to see that. Now, that is kind of what I think about the overall ergonomics feel upgrades to the console itself. It isn't a big upgrade. That is the issue right now with the Nintendo Switch 1 when it comes to what you're getting ergonomically and the innovation of this console. But I'm actually completely okay that the innovation isn't huge here. And that is because Nintendo knew what they had with the Switch 1. They knew that that had been out for a while, and anybody who's been using the Switch 1 into 2025 knows that an upgrade of some sort was needed with more power, and this is what they delivered, and they delivered it in a package that I think is very good. However, there will be people out there who are going to be disappointed by this simply because it does not have a big innovative upgrade to it. And for those people, definitely I would just wait for picking up the Nintendo Switch 2. But if you're looking for just a nice upgrade right away, graphics and frame rates and upgrades to Nintendo Switch 1 games, I would say this is a good thing to pick up. If you're looking for brand new Nintendo Switch 2 software, absolutely wait. You can wait a year, maybe even 2 years until there's a huge slate of big Nintendo Switch 2 first-party Nintendo games that are coming out. If you do think about it, we have Mario Kart World, which is basically the only one. Donkey Kong Bonanza. There's a new Pokemon coming out. There will be a Metroid Prime 4 coming out. There's going to be a new Splatoon. So there is a lineup of big games. I'm sure will be a new Zelda coming down the line in the next couple of years. There's going to be a long slate of big first-party Nintendo games that you will be able to pick up right away when those are out with the Nintendo Switch 2. And at the price tag right now, I guess depending on where you live, I live in Canada, so the price tag is even higher. But let's go with the US pricing of $450. You may pick this up and be disappointed if you were looking for a bunch of new software. The other thing people may want to know about is the battery life, and the battery life has been decent depending on what you're playing. For Cyberpunk, I'm getting like 2.5 hours of it just straight playing, which is a pretty demanding game. I don't think that is too bad. I wish they would somehow be able to get more battery life out of this, but you can get more battery life out of playing other stuff on there. But it's very much in line with the Nintendo Switch 1, so there isn't a huge upgrade here on the battery life. And with that being said, I would say the verdict at the end of the day is this is just an upgrade across the board. Everything about this Switch is better than the Switch 1. And if you care about that right now, yes, you'll be happy with the Switch 2. But if you care about all the first party stuff, then I would absolutely just wait. So those are my thoughts here on the Nintendo Switch 2 over the first week or so playing with it. I'm loving it personally, and I will continue to be using it. I will continue to be playing all of my games that I do have and checking out more stuff there. But if you do have a Switch 2, let me know your thoughts on this. Are you planning on picking one up? Because stock is readily available. There is no issue with picking up a Nintendo Switch 2. I've seen restocks even just as of today. So Nintendo did a great job on that. But let me know your thoughts. If you did enjoy it, hit the thumbs up. If you're new here, hit the subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.